Someone cleared out their grandmother's sewing room last spring, found a small, stained pocket knife tucked inside a wooden cigar box, and priced it at $2 for their weekend garage sale. A collector stopped by that morning, paid without negotiation, and before dinner, that exact same knife sold online for $1,900. If you have a drawer full of old tools to clear out, that is the scenario you want to avoid. You know there might be value sitting there, but without knowing the specific terminology of knife collecting, it is easy to hand over a rare piece for pocket change. Most people try to navigate this dilemma by running the same 3 common-sense filters. They check if the blade opens and closes, they look for a brand name they recognize, and they judge whether the knife looks clean. This chart shows why those filters fail. We are plotting aesthetic condition against collector value. A shiny, clean, store-bought knife lands in the low-value quadrant. Meanwhile, the gritty, unpolished vintage models, the ones people usually throw in the discard pile, occupy the high-value space. What actually drives this value is a specific manufacturing window. Between the 1930s and the early 1970s, American cutlery was built to a standard that has not been matched since. Factories were using high-quality American carbon steel, hand-fitting handle scales, and relying on the skill of individual workers. Eventually, acquisitions and consolidations changed the manufacturing logic to prioritize unit cost over craftsmanship. That gap in manufacturing quality is why a quick glance is the worst way to price an old tool. There are 11 specific knives that prove this point. Trusting your modern intuition at a garage sale guarantees you will leave hundreds of dollars on the table. To protect your wallet, you have to look past the surface and read the history stamped into the steel. Our first category is the dead factory obscurities, featuring names like Ulster Knife Company and Robeson Sure Edge. These were unflashy, working-class knives built for farmers and tradesmen. Because they lack modern branding, casual sellers assume they are junk, but they were made with genuine bone handles and carbon steel blades that take and hold an edge longer than most modern imports. You see the same dynamic with Queen Cutlery. They ran a small operation in Titusville, Pennsylvania, where craftsmen evaluated the finished product in the hand, rather than chasing a cost-per-unit target. Then there is George Wostenholm & Son EXL, operating out of Sheffield, England. The trap here catches mostly Americans. You find an old, foreign-sounding name on a blade, so you price it at $5. What you miss is that in the 19th century, Sheffield was to cutlery what Detroit was to cars, the global standard for blade making. Obscurity is often a signal of rarity. Once a factory has been closed for decades, the supply of their output is permanently locked, and collectors begin competing for the surviving examples that haven't been lost or destroyed. Our second category is the deceptive doubles. This is where recognizable brand names like Remington, Winchester, and Schrade trick sellers into undervaluing original pieces. The most common trap involves the Schrade old-timer. You see an old-timer on a hardware store peg hook for $22 today, so when you find an old one in a drawer, you price it the same way. This flowchart illustrates the critical differentiator, the Tang stamp. A USA stamp proves it is a pre-2004 American-made original. We apply this same logic to Case XXX knives. Their dot-based dating system separates a $12 sale from a $300 piece of documented history. The same logic applies to Winchester and Remington. In the early 20th century, these companies produced pocket knives with the same strict standards they applied to their firearms. Over the decades, those famous names were licensed to cheaper, imported productions. The Tang stamp and the handle material are the only reliable ways to prove you are holding a pre-1940 original. You will also see this with the early production Buck 110 folding hunter. The 1960s and 70s versions feature heavy brass bolsters and genuine ebony wood, which current store shelf versions do not match. Trusting a famous brand name without verifying the specific production era via the Tang stamp hands your profit margin straight to a collector. That brings us to the highest stakes knives on the list, military contract blades from manufacturers like Camillus and Cattaraugus. These companies supplied American servicemen across multiple decades. They were constructing tools to rigorous government specifications, built for environments where failure had real consequences. When you examine these knives, you are looking for specific proof of service. Look for USMC markings, USN contract stamps, or electrician's patterns, or specialized riggers configurations. Because these knives were carried through actual deployments, they usually look rough. Most families clearing out an estate see a beat-up tool, price it at $2, and miss the military provenance. Finding a USMC or USN stamp removes that item from the garage sale market. You're holding a documented piece of military history, and there is a collector market actively paying for it. Misidentification is expensive, but the most severe financial mistakes happen before the knife is even priced, through physical alteration. When you find an old, dirty knife, the instinct is to clean it up. You want to wipe the blade, polish the brass, or apply WD-40 so it looks presentable for the sale. This chart shows why you must suppress that instinct. Look at the drop in value between a knife with intact patina and one in polished condition. Collectors buy these as historical objects. That patina is their proof of authenticity. Applying WD-40 is particularly damaging. It degrades older handle materials and surface coatings, stripping the knife of the exact markers a collector uses to verify its age. The second mistake is throwing away the debris around the knife. Do not toss out those old cigar boxes, parts cards, canvas rolls, or the faded paper sleeves they originally came in. If you try to make an 80-year-old tool look brand new, you are erasing the evidence a premium buyer needs to justify a high price. To prevent these mistakes, you need a straightforward workflow, the 10-minute appraisal protocol. If you are an accidental inheritor wanting to clear space, your protocol is simple. Do not clean the blades, keep all packaging together, and sell the items as an untouched vintage lot. This maximizes your return for zero research time. If you are flipping items for maximum profit, your protocol requires macro photographs. Photograph the tang stamp, the grain on the handle material, and any inlaid shields. Then post those specific photos in collector forums for feedback. This visualization shows the final step for pricing, filtering your eBay searches strictly by completed and sold listings. The difference between the active asking price and the completed sold figure represents the gap between seller expectations and actual market value. Active listings are just wishful thinking. Sold listings tell you the true market liquidity and confirm exactly how much cash has recently been exchanged for that specific model. Be cautious of any picker at your sale who offers to take a confusing knife off your hands to save you the trouble. A vintage tool does not lose its value just because it sat forgotten in a cigar box for 30 years. It loses its value the moment it lands in the hands of someone who doesn't know to ask the tang stamp the right questions.
So, the next time you're decluttering your space or packing up a donation box, take a second look. Just because an item seems obsolete, outdated, or just plain ugly doesn't mean it belongs in the trash or the giveaway pile. You might be tossing out serious value without even realizing it. Be careful, look past the surface, and always check the details before you let something go. If this video saved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more tips.